Dr. Jerry, you got the whole world waiting. Been ready for you to start the conversation. Your point of view, it got the haters confused. Leave it up to you to bring us all the good news. Positive vibes and the sex appeal too. Dr. Andre Jerry, can I get an interview?
Good evening, everybody, and welcome to the premiere episode of Live with Dr. Andre Jerry. I am your host, Dr. Andre Jerry, and I'm so happy that you're joining me for my inaugural broadcast on the Artist First Radio Network. Shout out to my family and friends who are tuning in, and to every one of you who are supporting the show with your listenership today. Thank you for your support. It's very much appreciated. Now look, it's not every day a brother gets his own show, right? So I definitely want to give praise and thanks to Jehovah God for this and many other blessings. Thank you to the Artist First Radio Network for believing in my vision and trusting me with this platform. And a very special thanks to none other than Miss Renata Morgan, who just a few months ago invited me as a guest on her show to promote my book. I sincerely appreciate her for opening up the door for me, and not only that, extending a warm welcome to me as a fellow host on the network. She even called me a few hours before the show to calm my nerves a bit and wish me well. So Renata, I know you're listening. Thank you once again, and I want to encourage everyone listening to tune in to Relevant with Renata every second Monday at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, also on the Artist First Network. Listen, we got a great show in store for you today. You guys are in for a treat. So I know a lot of people out there may have been wondering, what's going on with the housing market lately? I mean, just earlier this year, we were in what a lot of experts refer to as a pandemic housing boom. But now, with inflation on the rise and mortgage rates increasing, we seem to be watching the housing market enter into a sort of recession. But is this a true housing market recession, or is the market merely correcting itself? And if you're currently in the market to purchase a house, is it still advantageous for you to buy right now? And what about the recent increase in mortgage rates? How is that going to impact the affordability of the type of home you want? And if you're a homeowner currently looking to sell, should you go ahead and sell now before the value of your home decreases? Or should you wait and ride this thing out for a little while longer? Well, thankfully, we have real estate professionals and mortgage professionals on today's show to help answer those questions and a lot more. In the first half of the show, I'll be speaking with North Carolina Realtor Adria Massey about the latest housing market trends, and to also find out what's hot in the Charlotte, North Carolina real estate market this summer. Also, a little later in the show, I'll welcome Kychell Bozier to the show to discuss what's new in the mortgage lending industry, as well as insider tips on how to get pre-approved for a mortgage loan in 2022. So be sure to stick around for this valuable insight. Now, without further ado, let's introduce my very first guest. Now, I've known this young lady for a very long time, and it's been amazing to watch her transition from a young college student into the amazingly hard-working professional that she is today. Before she became a highly sought-after realtor specializing in the Charlotte area, she graduated from Brenau University with a Master of Business Administration degree, and prior to that, she earned her bachelor's degree from East Carolina University. She started her career in real estate to address a need in the community and to assist with providing more education and added value about the home buying process. And in relatively short amount of time, she has become a trusted expert in the Charlotte housing market, applying her expertise in being a guiding hand in one of the most important purchases you'll ever make in your lifetime, and that's buying a home. I now welcome to the show my very first guest, Miss Adria Massey. Adria, how are you today?
Hi, Dr. Jerry. Thank you so much for having me, and I am doing awesome. How are you?
I'm doing great. Listen, I know how busy you are, so I just want to thank you for being a guest on my very first show. I'm so excited that you're here. So let's go ahead and get started. Why don't you start off by telling the listeners a little bit about yourself?
Okay, sure. So hello, everyone. As Dr. Jerry mentioned earlier, my name is Adria Massey, and I'm a local realtor here in the Charlotte area. I received my bachelor's from East Carolina University in public health, and then I went on to receive my MBA in healthcare administration from Brown University in Georgia. I've been in real estate for under a year now, and it is amazing. I absolutely love it, and I'm excited to see everything that's going to come from it.
Wonderful. Well, you have a very impressive educational background. And one of the things I wanted to ask you is what made you decide to take the risk to change career fields, because you were working in the healthcare administration field before becoming a realtor. So why, after investing so much time in the healthcare industry, did you make the change to go over into real estate?
Yeah, that's $1 million question, isn't it? Especially after having so much experience in it. But, one of the great things about the healthcare industry is that it's always going to be there. So it can always, if I decide I want to go back, it's there. I feel like I pretty much put in my time there. I've enjoyed it. It's been wonderful. But I was really looking for my next challenge, and I really feel like real estate was that educational opportunity for me to jump into.
Absolutely understand that. A lot of people don't know this, but I was a realtor at one point in time. I remember I was still pursuing my bachelor's degree, and I was so anxious to get into the market to try something. And so I tried to put my hand at being a realtor, and I probably sold one or two houses, but it just was not my thing. It's not for the faint of heart. You really have to have a salesmanship about you, and you have to educate yourself on the market that you want to be involved in. You can't just step out there and say, okay, I'm a realtor now. You really have to be kind of out there in terms of what you want to present to the buyers. What is your what are you having to offer? What market are you going to specialize in? So you can't just step out there. It has to be very deliberate. And I see that you're very active on social media as it relates to your work, and you kind of do an amazing job with engaging your audience and using social media platforms like TikTok and Instagram to educate your followers about the home buying process. How has your social media engagement impacted your business and your clientele?
Well, to be honest, when I first started off as a realtor, you hear all these different strategies and tricks and tips to kind of get yourself out there, to kind of build up a clientele. And, a lot of it was the door knocking, do the cold calling, send out a bunch of mailers. And I'm like, there honestly has to be a better way. There has to be a way that I can reach thousands of people at one time without knocking on 100 doors for 4 people to answer the door for me. So I kind of started researching different realtors who had built up a great following and were really experienced in their areas. And a lot of them were really heavy on social media platforms. So, I'm really an introvert. So it took a lot for me to finally be like, okay, I'm just going to put myself out there on social media and see what happens. And I did my first video. And of course, those don't get a bunch of likes. They don't go viral. They don't do all of that unless you're doing something crazy, right? But I kept at it. I stayed consistent, and, I started getting more and more followers, more and more views. I started getting a lot of feedback. I started having people, reaching out to me in my DM saying, hey, I saw your reel or I saw your post, and I'm really interested in what you were saying, and I would love to work with you. So, that's pretty much been my experience with it. It's been a game changer, honestly. And for any realtors or anyone who's wanting to get a little more hands-on or have a few more eyes on their business, I would highly recommend stepping up your social media platforms.
Well, like I said, you've been doing an amazing job with it. And I remember seeing your very first post. I think it was on TikTok. And it was just a simple video, but it was informative. It got your name out there, and it was a great start. You have to start somewhere. You can't expect to get out of there and just have 10 and 20,000 views right out the gate. You have to start somewhere. And I've watched you just increase your interaction and your likes going up and your followers. So there really is something to that. And I think if you're in the real estate market, if you're a realtor, really social media is a great way to get yourself out there and to promote your brand and to let people know, hey, I'm here and I'm looking forward to working with you. So excellent job on that. I want to shift gears a little bit and talk about, I'm sorry not to cut you off, but I want to kind of talk about some of the changes that we've seen with the real estate market this year, because I've noticed in the first 2 quarters of the year, we were in a bit of a housing market frenzy. You know, home prices were through the roof and there was so much activity. Now it seems like things are changing a little bit. In your opinion, what's happening? What's going on?
Well, you know, the biggest thing, of course, is going to be the interest rates. A couple of months ago, the interest rates were still low. The supply was still pretty low, but the demand for homes were, you know, it's just extremely high. It was out of the roof. So that caused the home prices to really drive up because people were being able to be qualified for loans because of the interest rates were so much lower than they currently are right now. And that pretty much created a frenzy in the whole housing market. You know, it was people were bidding $10,000, $15,000, $50,000 over asking prices. You had investors coming in that were just dropping crazy amounts of cash and kind of, you know, pulling everyone else out of the water. And what has happened over the past few months, when they raised the interest rates, unfortunately, that pulled a lot of buyers out of the game. So things kind of slowed it, you know, they ended up slowing down a little bit. Now, of course, it's still, you know, a great market. People are still able to buy homes, but things are kind of slowing down and correcting, which is pretty much honestly what we're needing right now.
Yeah, I can see that. You know, about the frenzy that we were talking about earlier in the year, you know, even I got caught up in it. You know, because of course I own a home in Warner Robins, Georgia. And when I first purchased my home in 2015, I stole that house. I mean, I paid less than $45,000 for that house. So earlier this year, I noticed that it's now worth close to $200,000. And I was very much itching to sell when I saw how much my home had appreciated. And I even put it on the market. I did the whole thing. And then a good friend of mine, shout out to Obi, he told me, he said, look, you may want to just hold on to your house. You may want to hold on to it. I understand that it's appreciated a lot. You'll get a lot of money, but it'll be worth so much more potentially in the future if you just hold on to it. And I know so many people who have got caught up in that frenzy and they sold their home and, you know, and got a good payday, but there's always that future appreciation that could happen. So I certainly understand how people could have got, you know, caught up in that.
Right.
So now that we are in a different type of demand where, you know, supply was low earlier, now the supply probably is a lot different than it was before. We're seeing house prices go down. People are no longer able to get the 15 and 20 and 1,000 plus over their asking price. Do you feel like the home prices will continue to go down?
Honestly, a lot of people are under the impression that the home prices are going down when honestly the home prices are just correcting. The homes were originally overpriced, and so now they're going back to the price in which they should have been. But so many people are looking at it like, oh, you know, everyone's just lowering their price. No, they're just getting back to the regular price that it really should have been a few months ago, now that everything is calming down. So no, I don't feel that home prices are going down, but I'll definitely say home prices are correcting.
Totally understand. That's a good point. So for anyone out there that's maybe looking to buy a house and they're looking at this decline in home prices, what would you tell a person that's looking to buy or sell right now? Would you just discourage them from entering the market right now, or would you say, no, this is a good time, let's go ahead and move forward? What is your opinion on that?
Well, for anyone, let's just start with the buyers. If a buyer is interested in buying a home right now, I would definitely highly encourage it. It's never, it's always going to be a great time to invest in real estate because you can always buy, hold, and sell later. Like you just mentioned about appreciation. That's still going to happen no matter what rate. It's still going to happen. Right now, the interest rates are still at a very good rate. A lot of people are saying, oh, well, they're so much higher than what they were last year. But you also have to think about it. Would you rather have a 5% interest rate on a home versus that 29% interest rate that you're currently carrying on your credit card? So I tell people to look at it that way. I still will always rather take that 5% regardless. And even if you still feel that, hey, that 5% is high, still go ahead and buy while this home is still at a great price. Because next year you can always just go and refinance the home if you feel you want a lower interest rate. So for buyers out there, if you're wanting to buy a home, no, definitely find you a great realtor and get you a good deal on a home. And,
absolutely.
Yeah. And for anyone who's wanting to sell their home right now, even though things are calming down, we are very much still in a seller's market. We still have extremely high demand on homes, and we are still experiencing a lower supply of homes. So right now, if you're willing to put your home on the market and that's what you're wanting to do, you're going to have someone that wants to come in and buy it. It's the whole process, and the key is to having that great realtor that will help you strategize and actually price your home at the best price to go ahead and bring a buyer in there for you.
Absolutely. So we're not so much in a frenzy like we were before, but it's still a good idea to sell if that's what you're in the market to do. And even if you want to buy, this is still a good time. It's just that the market is correcting itself, and we're seeing home prices normalize back to what they should be because they've been overpriced, is what I'm hearing you say. So that certainly makes a lot of sense to me.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. Now, what is hot in the North Carolina, North Carolina housing market right now? I've seen on your page where you advertise a lot of newly constructed, what is the word I'm looking for? Those townhomes. They're actually beautiful. Mm-hmm. Is that what you're getting a lot of?
Yeah, everyone loves a brand new townhome, right?
Right.
I can attest to that. I live in a brand new townhome. They're a hot thing right now.
They're beautiful.
They're easy to maintain. Usually it comes with all type of different incentives and amenities and stuff along with the HOAs. They're really hot. When you drive through Charlotte, if you've ever been in this area, you'll see that there are like a crazy amount of townhome communities that are being built up in the area. So if there's one type of housing that I would say is just on a high street, it would definitely be the townhomes.
Right. In your experience, how long have these homes been staying on the market once they are fully constructed and out on the market for sale?
Some of these homes they're being sold before they're even finalized.
Goodness.
There isn't really a lot of new construction townhomes that you'll see sitting on the market forever. These things, as soon as they have them up and they have the plans ready, the buyers are coming through. They're taking a look at what it's going to be like. They're talking about the interior and how they want it all set up, and those are being sold. They're doing their walkthroughs, and they have their sold signs in them before they even have everything finalized. So those don't stay on the market too long, not at all.
Right. So for these newly constructed townhomes, if you see something you like and you're in the market to buy, you really have to jump on it right away because it doesn't sound like they're staying available for very long at all.
Correct, not at all. And that's for any home. It's not just, new construction. If you're seeing something that you like, I would definitely, put an offer in on it, see what happens, because even though we're in a better position than we were, let's say, back in March and April when things were staying on the market for sometimes a couple of hours, maybe just over the weekend to kind of get all the bids in to see who was going to have the highest and best offer. Right now, things are staying on the market for about, let's see, for the Charlotte area, it's approximately 15 days or so. So that's still
not long at all.
Yes. So, my advice, if you're seeing something out there, go for it.
Wow, that's amazing. Well, listen, I wanted to kind of shift gears and ask you about something else. Now, there is a USDA loan program out there that encourages buyers to purchase homes in rural communities. What experience have you had with that program, and can you tell us a little bit more about it?
Sure. The USDA loan program is an excellent program. It's one of the home loans that provide 100% financing. Of course, just like any other loan program, it has its own set of eligibility requirements that vary based on, the different states. But what it is that it offers loans to people who would like to live outside of the city limits a little bit, kind of like away from those metro areas. Yes. So let's just say I'm going to take up a real popular city, for instance. Let's just say Atlanta. There's a bunch of the outskirt cities and stuff surrounding Atlanta that may have areas that are considered rural. You'll definitely have to check the guidelines and stuff for that particular area. But if you're finding a home in an area that is eligible for a USDA loan, what you're able to do is get 100% financing with no down payment, which is a really great option for many people who may have, they don't have that type of down payment to put down, or they're okay with living not right in the city. So, of course, I'll let Kychell kind of touch on all of the eligibility and all of that because I know that's her world. But it's a really great program, a loan option for those people who are wanting to move in those particular areas and do not currently have the down payment to put down on a home.
Wow, that sounds like a great program. I like the idea that you can get 100% financing. And, you may have to live outside the metro area, but I think if you can get a 100% financing for your home, I think that's, something that you can do as a trade-off. And especially if you are a first-time buyer who may not have the $5,000 and $10,000 that you have to put down as a down payment. So definitely something to look into. If a person finds a home that they're interested in that they think may be within the confines of the USDA loan program area, is there a website or something that they can do to type in the address to maybe search and see if that home is even eligible?
Oh, most definitely. There is a website that they can go to, and it's actually eligibility.sc.egov.usda.gov. So, of course, I'll provide that again for anybody who may have missed that. But there is definitely a website you can go to. You can put in the address and see if the property that you're interested in buying is eligible for that particular loan, most definitely.
Thank you. I appreciate you providing that website as well. With that program, and we'll move on from this in a second, but will the buyer have to work with a particular or specialized real estate agent if they want to pursue the USDA loan program? Can they work with you, for instance?
Oh, yes, they can definitely work with me. There is not a certain real estate agent that you have to work with in order to get the USDA loan. Whatever, real estate agent that you are connected with or that you already have or that you may be seeking, they will be able to assist with getting that particular loan. However, what I would recommend is getting a lender that is extremely knowledgeable about those particular loans that will help you best along the way.
Absolutely. And before we go to a break, I want to ask you to touch on one of your posts I saw recently that encouraged your audience to consider their first home not having to be their dream home. Can you expound on what you talked about in that post?
Of course. So many times, when we're in the home hunting process, we get so drawn into all of these beautiful homes, things that people may consider their forever homes. And what I want to make sure that everyone understands is that your first purchase doesn't have to be that dream home. It could be more of that starter home, more of the the lower price affordable home that you go in and maybe fix up and that you can hold and build up equity, and then take that particular equity that you built up in that starter home and then take it to get into your dream home. There's starting points to everything. And if you're not quite ready with your funds and everything to go and purchase the home that you want to be in forever, I definitely want people to remember and understand that there's still options. It may not be the home that you want to be in forever, but it'll definitely be an investment that'll pay off for you in the future.
Absolutely. I'm so glad you mentioned that. I remember when I first purchased my home, I was a little weary because I know it needed some work, and I'm not exactly Mr. Home Improvement. So, but something told me that this still would be a great home to purchase. It's on a great plot of land. And so I made the decision to go ahead and buy it, even though it needed a lot of work. And it's one of the best decisions that I ever made, because now that home is a rental property for me and is a source of passive income. So I definitely would encourage anyone who's looking to buy their first home. It doesn't have to be perfect. You'll find the people, and your realtor can help you network with people who can do plumbing and do roofing, and they have those relationships. So use your real estate agent for the contacts that they have. But I just thought it was such a great post that you put out there to educate the people about buying a first home. We're going to have to go to a break in a minute, but before we do, Adria, I just wanted to let you know that it was a pleasure having you on here, and you were able to give us a lot of insight on what's been happening in the market, and I certainly appreciate your time this evening. But I want you to let the listeners know, especially the ones who may be in the Charlotte, North Carolina area, if they're looking to hire a real estate agent, please share your social media and contact info so they'll know how to reach out to you.
Okay, sure, definitely. So I have a very unique name on TikTok and Instagram. It's actually Houses and Heels, and it's HOUSESNHEELS. And you can find me again on TikTok and Instagram under that particular name. On Facebook, it's just my name, Adria Massey. And if anybody wants to directly contact me, they can reach me at 980-710-3367.
Outstanding. Well, thank you again, and we're going to take a quick break, and when we return, we're going to talk to a mortgage lending expert from Rapid Mortgage. We'll be right back.
Waves of sadness from out of nowhere. Instantly, you feel a weight of despair, a subtle heaviness that leaves you drained, and a lingering loneliness that remains. Suddenly, there is no reason to smile, and then you become angry for a while, lashing out at anyone near, especially the ones you hold dear. Imprisoned by your own emotions, unsettled by the lack of control. Trying to make sense of it all, meanwhile, it takes its toll. Distancing yourself from family, pushing your friends away, knowing in your heart that maybe you'll need their support one day. As your despondency becomes palpable and more real, you find it difficult to express how you feel. So you become quiet and do your best to disguise it. But there is no denying it. There is something wrong, because nothing you do feels right. The sadness is overwhelming, but you're too angry to cry. Deep into the pit of self-pity you're hurled, where you realize you're not depressed, you're mad at the world. This poem, written by Dr. Andre Jerry, is entitled Mad at the World, from his literary debut, Write or Die, Expressions of Life, Love, and Loss, Volume 1, available exclusively on Amazon and Kindle. Write or Die is more than just a collection of poetry. It's a lifestyle, a call to action to its readers to consider expressive writing, such as poetry, as a catalyst for healing, growth, and change. Write or Die assists the reader in a way that's relative to them and helps to identify their own emotions. Each expression is poetically written in an elegant style that's helpful to the reader, for each expressed title motivates in a personal way, providing pure insight and introspection. Having triumphed over his own trauma and adversity, Dr. Andre Jerry has proven how powerful expressive writing can be to the healing process. If you're feeling stuck in an emotional state that's keeping you from achieving your highest potential, consider expressive writing as a tool to help identify and release negative thoughts. Purchase your copy of Write or Die, Expressions of Life, Love, and Loss, Volume 1 by Dr. Andre Jerry, available exclusively on Amazon and Kindle.
It's Joe Brown.
Hey, yo, Vaughn, throw that 808 on that.
And let your maximum effort become your minimum. I hope you didn't grow up too fast and actually had the chance to be a little kid. I hope you use success as your stimulant and let your maximum effort become your minimum. When self-doubt trickles in, cripple it and never let discomfort overpower your self-discipline. Things you love now, you'll eventually lose interest in. And in this world full of hate, let love be the emphasis. Hold on to your innocence no matter your predicament. Know you are significant in this symphony of life. Let your voice be your instrument and never watch from the crowd, be a participant. So much positivity you try to implement. You never take your own advice, but always would distribute it. The life you're living isn't how you had envisioned it. Like the happy place in your mind that you're often visiting, but based on your experience of terrible conditionings, you shy away from intimacy, questioning the feelings that you had originally, when you should just follow your heart and let your spirit be free. Hi, it's Joe Brown, what they call me. And I'ma change life, well, probably. Man, I ain't think about the future till I was 23. I can't believe I bought a home before 2023. I talk to God because I know that God's in me. Soon as the door opens, the devil tries knocking me, but I won't let it happen, not at all, not to me. I got a plan, but I'ma leave it up to God and see. I remember being alone in that dark room. You wanna ask for help, but it's so hard to. Then you find yourself at a bar, on that bar stool, trying to flush away everything that's ever harmed you. Don't know how many times your family warned you. Only a matter of time before they mourn you. And they just want you alive. And I hope you don't base your life successes off of everything you didn't do. Search deep inside, try to find the kid in you. Close your eyes, reminisce, get a visual. Try and pinpoint the moment that was pivotal. There's gotta be a reason why these certain things trigger you. Did your parents love enough? Did other people pick on you? Believe me, it all matters. Everything in life's residual. Just because you let it go don't mean it doesn't stick with you. Even though you feel invisible, we still see the good in you. We know you feel you've done some things that's inexplicable. We know you feel you've done some things that's unforgivable. But we just want you home, the family's already forgiving you. Just try and find that missing piece before we had to miss you. It's Joe Brown, what they call me. And I'ma change life, well, probably. Man, I ain't think about the future till I was 23. I can't believe I bought a home before 2023. I talk to God because I know that God's in me. Soon as the door opens, the devil tries knocking me, but I won't let it happen, not at all, not to me. I got a plan, but I'ma leave it up to God and see.
You're back live with Dr. Andre Jerry.
Hey, everybody, welcome back. So over the break, you got to hear brand new music from independent recording artist Jill Brown entitled Adolescent, written and performed by Jill Brown and produced by Bond Make Hits. If you're an independent artist who'd like your music featured on our show, send my team an email at livewithdrandrejerry@gmail.com. That's livewithdrandrejerry@gmail.com. So I want to take a moment to give a special shout out to our listeners in Nigeria. We truly have listeners from all over the globe tuning in, and we sincerely appreciate your listenership. Thank you so much. Before the break, we had a robust discussion about real estate with Adria Massey. Now, we need to get to the money, because unless you plan on paying cash for that house you're so in love with, You're going to have to get some financing, my friend. So let's get to it. My next guest came highly recommended, not only by Adria, but by many of the real estate agents who work with first-time buyers in the Charlotte, North Carolina market. She brings a lot of energy, passion, and professionalism to her work in the mortgage industry. Allow me to introduce my second guest of the night, representing Rapid Mortgage out of Charlotte, North Carolina, Miss Kychell Bozier. Kychell, how are you this evening?
Hi, Dr. Jerry. I am doing all right. I'm happy to be here. Thank you for having me.
Oh, I'm so glad to have you on the show. Thanks so much for taking time out of your schedule. I know you're busy to be a guest on my show, and I'm just so glad that you're here to help inform our listeners about the mortgage pre-approval process, because, Kychell, this is where a lot of well-intended people drop the ball. But before we get into that, tell our listeners a little bit about yourself.
All right. Well, I am a mortgage lender for 2 years now as of yesterday, so I just reached a milestone. What drove me into real estate was when COVID hit and the kids had to be home doing virtual learning. I really wanted to switch gears and be able to be home with my daughter and present during that moment in time that we had. I originally, like Adria, was in the medical field, and I did some nonprofit work and project management. So I had no idea the warmth of being a mortgage lender and the feeling that it would bring me until I was able to tie it back to the feeling of gratitude I would get when spending times with families in my previous career of healthcare. So.
Oh, that's amazing. Well, congratulations first on having made 2 years in the mortgage lending industry. I know that's quite an achievement. And I love how, even though this pandemic was and is a negative situation that we're all in, a lot of us have kind of used that to parlay into other modes of working and different side gigs and things like that. So it's really been a blessing, a mixed blessing for a lot of us. And, you know, I'll ask you the same question that I posed to Adria earlier in our first segment. There's definitely been a noticeable change in this housing market. What's your take on where the market is today, and where is it heading in the future, you think?
Yep, I feel like the market is in a great place today. I feel like it is a wonderful time to buy a home. We are just getting out of that dip we had from the COVID housing market, and now things are kind of balancing out. So we'll say it's a balancing act. Yes, some people have been phased out who would have been able to buy before, but it gives the opportunity for that correction, making less people be able to get homes, and then there's more homes available on the market. So, and even if there's not more homes, at least there are homes now, because not as many people are in a rat race. So I think it's a good time. The prices are evening out, and I'm seeing where our buyers are being able to kind of get back in there where they couldn't really get in there before. So I think it's a good time.
Absolutely. Well, thank you for your take on that. And you sort of agree with Adria that this isn't a housing market recession. This is just a market correcting itself. So there's no reason for anyone to get into a panic or anything like that. It's just that the housing prices are stabilizing. So this is not a bad thing. This is actually a good thing, right?
Yes, it is a good thing.
Okay. Well, listen, I have a question. When in the process should a buyer contact you? Should we reach out to Andrea first, or should we contact your office first? What comes first, the chicken or the egg? Tell us.
Well, I think it kind of go hand in hand. It depends on who you're going to be asking. I know a lot of times my clients that I get, the families that I work with, have come from my realtor partners. So, therefore, I will say, in trusting that realtor partner, your realtor partner is going to know your circumstance from a surface level and give you the best lender for the job. All lenders are not created equal. Some may have programs where other ones don't, and your real estate agent can definitely be able to help decipher some of that out for you. So other than that, I do have leads that come to me, and then that affords me the opportunity to kind of see what situation they're in, check them out, and then send them to a realtor ready to roll, boots on the ground already. So it just depends. I guess either way will do.
Yeah, so it really just depends on the client and their circumstances. You know, I know a lot of realtors, they don't even want to deal with a buyer unless they're already pre-approved. Has that been your experience as well?
That has definitely been my experience. So I try to pump the message out there, but first, get pre-approved.
Right. And so your clients are mostly first-time home buyers, or do you have sort of a mixed clientele?
Yep, I have a pretty good mix, but first-time home buyers are definitely number one on my chart. Next up, I will have to say it's probably clients who are about to buy another property. So either they are selling so that they can downsize, or because their family have grown. Maybe they're relocating for work or a separation of assets. So that would be another mix. Third would be people wanting just to have a second home or a vacation home, and then investment properties and refinances. So there's a pretty good mix of the things that I am able to do and the services I'm able to provide.
Okay, so you deal with a good mix of people, from first-time home buyers to people who are looking to refinance their home. So I imagine your phone is ringing off the hook constantly. Speaking of first-time home buyers, what, in your opinion, are some of the most common mistakes you see them making? Because this is their first home purchase, and so there are just a lot of things they don't know. So what are some of the common mistakes you've seen in your career?
Mistakes I have seen. All right, so let's say we already have the client pre-approved. So their credit has checked out, and we kind of balanced out all their ratios. I give them this letter, explain all the details, and send them out to go look. Tell them happy house hunting. Mistakes that I have seen is when I say save, 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 don't spend, make sure you have extra cushion just in case of an emergency, or if any quotes or anything comes up that needs to be overly compensated for. Well, in doing that, I will notice that people will start spending their credit cards more. And so, yes. Yeah, so that can really mess us up because the debt-to-income ratio, then that varies. And if it tips them over the edge of where we have them, then we may have to either reconsider a loan product, and it could cause delays. So another thing I've seen is people purchase a car during the middle of the process. You never want to do that because then that adds another debt to your record, and it takes away from the income that we can use. So if you were qualified for a certain amount before, this may take your amount down even lower. So
have you ever seen an instance where someone is in the middle of their home buying process and getting pre-approved, and they get laid off? What happens if something like that occurs?
Well, unfortunately, when that occurs, then they will no longer be qualifiable, because one of the qualifying factors is that they have been on their job working or in that same field of work for at least the last 2 years. So we have to be able to call and get verification that you are still working. So we do that probably like the week before you close, just to make sure that you're still on your job, nothing has happened.
Right.
If not, there's no income to qualify, and then that disqualifies the person.
Goodness. Well, I've been through that process, and it is very stressful. And the mortgage lending experts are always on top of you about not making any purchases on your credit card, no huge purchases. You can't even, I had to find this out the hard way, you can't even just say you had some cash laying around and you just deposited like $5,000 in your account. That's going to cause some problems.
Yep, it definitely is. Now, you can deposit some money, but rule of thumb is just don't. The money has to be able to be tracked. It has to be able to be qualified. It has to be able to have a record of where it's coming from, and it just really convolutes things if you're just throwing in more than $1,000 in there at a time, and it shows up when we send you to underwriting. They're going to want to know where this money is, where it's coming from, and why did it show up.
Understood. Well, a lot of these young people, they're making a lot of money on internets and side hustles and things like that, and they're getting paid via Cash App a lot and different paying mechanisms like that. For those individuals that want to purchase a house, what is your advice to them in terms of how to account in terms of how it would, look well on your end to account for those monies that are coming in on these platforms like Cash App and Venmo?
You just have to make sure that that money can be tracked back to a source. If you're doing invoices or if the money's coming from a job that was done, just be able to have a paper trail showing where it came from.
Understood. So on the seller side of the aisle, things typically go smoothly until the appraisal process. But then on the buyer side, we see where the loan process kind of can go wrong in certain impacts that you've talked about. But the Federal Reserve has sort of increased the interest rate recently just in an effort to tame inflation. I want you to talk a little bit about what impact that has had or is having on the mortgage rates currently.
Yes. So the mortgage rates have definitely gone up, but my focus that I try to get people to focus on when they're thinking about the fact that now they can't get a 2.7 interest rate is that there were really only 4 times in history that rates have ever been that low. And I want to overemphasize that this was not something that was normal for the rates to be that low. So now we just have the rates back up where they normally would be, or they could definitely be higher. So they're still at a pretty good rate to where you're able to buy. I like to tell people to look at it as, like Adria said, look at your car note, look at your credit card statement. What is the interest rates on those things? And then kind of really get the clients engaged with the fact to look at that and see these 18%, these 26%, and ask them, is that an asset or is that a liability? Like, those things are going against you. You're buying a house, the biggest purchase of your life, at a 5% rate, and that is helping you build wealth. That is becoming an asset. So it's really worth that 5%. That 5% is not as much when you look at it at a grand scheme of things.
I understand. That's a really good point. I really hope that people got that. You really want to look at, especially when you're buying a home, you want to be careful about investing in depreciable assets like cars. It's one thing if you're going to use it to make money, but if you're just buying a car just because you want a new car, that's probably not going to have a good impact when you're looking to purchase real estate. So just be careful about that. Now, I want to ask you about something else. So I've been seeing a lot of information online, people posting about this. I just want to know, is it true, and get your take on it. Can you buy a home with a credit score less than 600?
Yes, you can buy a home with a credit score less than 600. With my company, we go down to 580, but I'll tell you what, you better have some real serious compensating factors for that. Buying a home with that credit score means that the investor is taking a higher risk. So it's going to cost you a little bit more, and then they're really going to dig down into a whole lot of stuff like your payment history, your long-standing work history. Do you have reserves? Do you have residual income? There are a lot more factors that are going to be critiqued on your loan when you're getting at a credit score less than 600, less than 640, really. So what I like to do is offer a plan to the clients. And if it's something that they don't need right away, a house they don't need right away, your mortgage lender should be able to kind of build up a plan from your financial profile to help you with your credit score, get you where you need to be, tell you how much money you're going to need, tell you do this, this, and this, and then your credit score will come up more. But you really have to be committed to following that plan and sticking to it and, just listening. So
it sounds like communication is key. Definitely stay in communication with your lender, with your real estate agent, and be forthcoming about what your situation is, what your goals are, what you're trying to do. That way someone can steer you in the right direction if you're sort of veering off course and what you're able to afford or what you're able to do.
Yep, absolutely. We are the professionals, so just let us professionally guide you and lead you with intent into your new home.
Right. Well, we're running a little bit low on time, but I did want to get you to cover this question really quickly because I got a lot of emails about this. For consumers out there who have experienced a bankruptcy, how does that impact someone's ability to get pre-approved for a home loan? Are they just, done for, or is there some hope for them? Tell us a little bit about that.
There is some hope. It really just depends on the loan program as far as how long they would have to wait. But I'll give, for an example, you can apply for an FHA loan just 2 years after a Chapter 7 and 12 months after a Chapter 13. But provided that the borrower has made timely verified payments over the last 12 months and that they're just really taking on that responsibility of building new healthy credit habits. So long story short, yes, it can be done. You just check with your lender as far as what part of the process you're in, and you can get a timeline on when you can get started.
Outstanding. Well, that's good information because there are a lot of people out there that have been impacted by bankruptcy, and sometimes, life happens. And so it's good to know that even after or post-bankruptcy, there's hope. If you want to purchase a home, like Kychell said, you can utilize the FHA loan and basically just have a good repayment or payment history for 12 months prior, and then maybe you can reach out to someone like Kychell and they can kind of steer you in the direction of getting pre-approved for a mortgage. So it's not the end-all, be-all if you get a bankruptcy on your record. There's really good information. So before we go, I want you to just kind of talk to our listeners about how to get started with the pre-qualifying process and how they can get in contact with you, your contact details, and so forth.
Yes. So to get the pre-qualified, you really just need to call a lender. I will definitely leave my information. You need to have 2 years of work history and your taxes filed. Those 2 years need to be in the same field. If there are any gaps, there just need to be explained. Credit score of 580 or better, and you need to have some savings in your account, and we can definitely take it from there. Each file is going to be different, and your professional will be able to tell you where you need to go, what that means for you. So I can be reached at kbozier@emailrmc.com. So I'll spell that out for you. kbozier@emailrmc.com. And my phone number is 704-912-2969.
All right. Kychell Bozier from RAP. Thank you so much for taking time. I should schedule this evening to be a guest on my show and help inform our listeners about the mortgage pre-approval process, because as I mentioned, this is where a lot of people get tripped up, and there's a lot of information out there online. So we definitely appreciate going over these points. For our listeners, if there's anything during this interview, either the first one or the second one that you missed, then we would definitely encourage you to check back on our webpage at artistfirst.com, and you'll see a link to go to my webpage for Live with Dr. Andre Jerry, and you'll see a link for past shows. So just keep that in mind in case you missed something that you want to refer to later. But this has been a great show. I appreciate both of my guests. Thank you again, Adria. Thank you again, Kychell. I'm very excited about the next show, which will air on September 21st, right here on the Artist First Network. This is Dr. Andre Jerry signing off. Have a good evening, everybody.